Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
I made myself a little chart. That chart's the McConaissance, and the Lincoln Lawyer is the beginning of the McConaissance. I quite like it as courtroom kind of things go. It's very, very slick. I like seeing Marisa Tomei in films as well. It isn't my favourite Matthew McConaughey courtroom drama film though. Time to Kill is much better and sweatier. But yeah,
sweaty McConaughey. Oh,
yeah.
No, he does get sweaty in this.
Not maximum sweatiness. So
well,
yeah,
maximum sweatiness has to be Magic Mike, surely. Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. We're joined by Charlie.
Hello, nice to be here.
George.
Hi.
And Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the Lincoln Lawyer.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at Flixwatcher.
Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Joining us remotely today we have Charlie and George. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Charlie, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, hi. So we're brothers. We finish off each other's sentences. We run our own podcast together, which takes a look back at films of our youth, the 80s and 90s blockbusters mainly. So we have a love of film, much like Flixwatcher. And today I've got the honour of choosing the film, and I'm very much looking forward to talking about the Lincoln Lawyer.
And who are you, George?
I am Charlie's brother. I am, yes, the other host, the other guy in Retro Ramble Podcast. So I have been lucky enough, this is my second time on the show, or it's a repeat appearance, I should say, for me.
You have indeed. Welcome back.
So yes, thank you for having me back. It's nice.
Yeah, you didn't do anything that bad last time, so we kind of thought you're welcome.
Well, yeah.
And also you're a member of the Shabbos Rollers.
I am.
Explain who the Shabbos Rollers are, Helen.
They're the current reigning champions at the Bigger Boat Film Quiz, because we won it the last time it was on before lockdown. So reigning champions.
Reigning champions, yeah.
You mean that hasn't continued? It's the one quiz that hasn't continued during lockdown. That's impressive.
Yeah,
they don't do it by Zoom. So in fact, they've been doing like Twitter quizzes, haven't they?
Like visual quizzes and stuff like that. Which is,
on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said there was no way they could recreate the magic remotely, which is fair to say.
Yeah, it's a really slick quiz, and I think we all do miss it, don't we?
Very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to catch up with fellow film fans and many other podcastees.
Yeah, that room's blessed by a lot of podcasters who I think we've sucked them all into Flixwatcher at some point. Sudden Double Deep, Sparklighter there, Easy Rider Raging Podcast, Exploding Helicopter are there. So yeah, it's a big room of podcasters. So can we just talk to you guys about your show, Retro Ramble? How do you choose the films that you talk about? I know you said it's about films you watched as a kid. Well, what was your film choice like as children? Who had the control? and who has the control now?
We were children. The films we watched were quite childish in terms of selection. I'm not trying. I don't know who would be the equivalent today, but it'd be like trying to be taken seriously today when you say, "Well, all I did when I grew up was watch, films with Dwayne Johnson and Jai Courtney." I don't know who the modern day
Arnold Schwarzenegger, surely.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know who the modern day equivalent of Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, Bruce Willis
Rock,
that we ran to and watched and consumed. But we're from the northeast of England. Interpret that as bad weather. So we would escape. We would escape through films from our local VHS rental place, and we'd watch them with our neighbours. We'd buy them. We'd get hold of them, and there was about three different families of brothers, and we'd all get together. And there's the occasional sister. Yeah, the sisters would be allowed in occasionally, but just watch. There was no internet. This was our pop culture escapism. So.
There's no internet. What we do like here is we do like when films are brought back from like the 80s and 90s when people had VHS, and at the time when you had like maybe 20 VHSs, but you'd have one that you'd watch like to death, or whether it's been taped off the TV or not. And I think that's a lot of the nostalgia thing, which kind of really is a motive here. And I think we had Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and that was one thing that I'd recorded off the TV at Christmas once, and therefore is one of the most watched films I've ever had. But when we rewatched it for this, it didn't hold up quite as well.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's still fun. But it's a bit like, ugh.
Yeah, we do talk about the power of nostalgia, and it can be, it works both ways. It's, sometimes it is a nice, warm hug, and then sometimes it's like I was wearing those rose-tinted spectacles, and that has dated horrifically. And I think that's the fun of doing, with picking the films we do. Sometimes we pick films that we watch repeatedly, and we still do, or we touch in, every couple of years. And then there's once in a while we'll chuck a film in that Charlie and I haven't seen for a long time. So we recently did the 30th anniversary, did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and
the first one.
Yeah, we did the first two actually.
I said I'm not going back and doing the second one. We're doing them both together. It's a special. We move on. Yeah, and
that was good and bad. It was sort of like this weird that some stuff comes by, you're like, oh yeah, it's great. And then you're like, oh yeah, that hasn't held up very well. But yeah, I say it's part of the fun of going back. And in terms of how we pick them, it's a bit of a weird alchemy. We do look at anniversaries and try and tie it into like upcoming releases. There's lots of remakes and reboots to tie into, so that is always handy. But also ties into our strapline of they don't make them like they used to.
Well, today we are talking about The Lincoln Lawyer, which is your choice, Charlie.
Yes.
Can you give us a reason why you chose it? Explain why you chose it, and give us a synopsis in a minute or less.
Yeah. So, a beautiful story. A circular. So, what basically happened was I watched. I think I got referred this film by George and I, by our dad, because he likes his detective type stuff. And as we all know, this film came, and I'm sure we'll touch on, this film came about the same sort of time we were going through the McConaissance. So it kind of, I wouldn't say passed me by, but I watched it. I thought whatever I did at the time. But then my dad once referred me to watch Bosch, and I got really hooked on the Bosch TV show. And that made me go and read all of the Michael Connelly Bosch books. Then I read all the Mickey Haller, which is the main character of this, read all of his books. Then I went back and watched The Lincoln Lawyer again. And obviously I've watched it again just this week for the show. But so I've watched it twice in the last 6 months. So if I kind of delve too much into the whole universe of the characters, I do apologize, but I'm not really sorry. But yeah, it's... that's why I chose it. In terms of a quick 1 minute synopsis, so Mickey Haller is a defense attorney in Los Angeles who works out of his car, doesn't believe in an office. He's basically being ferried from trial to trial, working his phone with his chauffeur is one of his clients who's working off what he owes him for getting him off for one of his cases. And for the film that we get one of the best books, an amalgamation of the plot of the books, with a very solid cast, as I'm sure we will look into. But it's a classic whodunit. I'd say that's probably the only thing that's probably not surprising about this film is that it's actually quite a simple setup. So that's, I think, all I should say without giving too much away.
Sure. So, George, this is your first time watching. We've been chatting over WhatsApp. What were your thoughts on it? How come you hadn't seen it before this time?
Well, I, in all honesty, I've got a bit of a back catalogue to catch up on the McConaissance. I mean, I've watched, the some of the bigger releases of his, and I remember, our dad talking about how it's worth a watch. I just never got round to it. It was just like, I was like, it's another legal drama. I'm sure it's good performance from McConaughey, but just why I've put it off for so long. I haven't heard anything negative about it, but in terms of, I think there's so much choice out there, just on Netflix alone, that you get sidelined by stuff, other more sort of glamorous, glitzy escapism, and sometimes a legal drama is the last thing you need. So that's what I've put it off. But I finally got around to watching it this week.
And also a boring title.
Yes.
So what did you what did you make of it then for the first time?
I enjoyed it. It has got really there's a lot of familiar faces in it, which we always like when we always talk about those all those
supporting characters.
Yeah, all those character actors, and so it's got great cast outside of McConaughey. You've got William H. Macy, Michael Peña. Who else have you got? Bryan Cranston in a obviously between filming Breaking Bad, because he's got a bit of a buzz cut. And so I thought it was a bit of a predictable legal drama, but I thought McConaughey was, as you'd expect. I thought it was a brilliant performance, an interesting character, an interesting story, the whole dynamic of the lawyer hates his client, but has to represent him because he's got no other choice. I thought that was quite an interesting spin on things. But in some ways it felt a little bit TV movie. I don't know if it's because I've watched one series of Bosch, and it felt very familiar in terms of the look and feel of it, and it felt a little bit TV movie at times, but I did enjoy it. I think I did, and I felt it was engrossing.
So, Helen, we've had a couple of McConaissance films beforehand, Dallas Buyers Club, and you can argue Bernie has McConaughey in it in a good role.
Yeah, so basically we have had a couple before, and I made myself a little chart. That charts the McConaissance, and the Lincoln Lawyer is the beginning of the McConaissance.
Apparently so, yeah.
In 2011. So this was just sort of when he started getting slightly more interesting roles. I've seen this before, probably around when it came out. I can't remember exactly. I quite like it as courtroom kind of things go. It's very, very slick. I like seeing Marisa Tomei in films as well. It isn't my favourite Matthew McConaughey courtroom drama film, though. Time to Kill is much better and sweatier. But
Sweaty McConaughey. Oh.
Yeah. No, it does get sweaty in this. It does get quite sweaty.
It's LA.
Not maximum sweatiness.
Maximum sweatiness has to be Magic Mike, surely.
But probably
that's also is that on your chart for McConaissance?
So hang on, where is it?
I believe that came out in May 2012.
Oh yeah, so that would be just around the beginning then. So basically, I've lost my page, but he started out pretty good. So he started out with like Ed TV, Time to Kill, and then something kind of happened.
You're forgetting Dazed and Confused.
So there we go. So we've got Dazed and Confused, Time to Kill, Contact, Ed TV, and then you kind of get into
Engaged Rom-Com.
The Wedding Planner U571, and then it dips up a little bit for Frailty and Reign of Fire, which I love, and then it goes to How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Sahara, Failure to Launch, Fool's Gold, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, and you just feel really sorry for the guy. And then around this time, so 2011, Lincoln Lawyer, Bernie, Killer Joe, the middle, The Paperboy, Mud, Magic Mike, and then the end of it, 2013, Dallas Buyers, Interstellar, 2014, and then True Detective. So he's due another revival, perhaps?
But has he slumped since True Detective, though? I don't think. There's just not been anything
He's
as
been
prominent.
in loads.
Briefly in Wolf of Wall Street, that one.
That was part of 2014.
Okay, yeah.
So that's part of it.
Having a look at his IMDb, you're right. It's he had a bit of a spike, sort of 2011 to sort of 2014-15, and then a bit of a dip. I think there was a few films that he tried. I remember being at one sort of film slate planning thing for, I think it was for Universal, and it was he was in called Gold, where he did this sort of typical Oscar bid. He was balding, he was overweight, trying to do a bit of a Christian Bale. And Universal saying, yeah, we've got really, really high hopes this is going to be his next Oscar bid. And it was just a complete damp squib. And he's still working. He's keeping himself busy. And he's obviously still highly in demand and highly paid actor. But I think he hasn't had, I can't think of the last sort of solid film he's done.
Well, the last main release was The Gentleman, which is not really my film.
I haven't seen. Charlie, have you seen that?
I really enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed it for the fact that I've hated pretty much everything that Guy Ritchie's done since, for a long time.
Snatch.
It's pretty since Snatch. I wouldn't say Lock, Stock, since Snatch. And this feels like, if you like Lock, Stock and you like Snatch, this is like a 2020 version of it. And also Hugh Grant is worth the admission fee alone for his performance. In that. So yeah, I mean that's why I found that film refreshing. And yeah, it's McConaughey. He's great to watch. What can you say? Gotta love the guy.
You always get a solid performance from him.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, in terms of legal dramas, I've never been really attracted towards a legal kind of drama, but every time I've watched one, I've enjoyed it for the time. But there's something about it that the setup doesn't sound that interesting. But I'm quite happy to watch Cops and Robbers. But then the other side of it is often quite less appealing to watch. But in this, he seems to be kind of playing both roles. He seems to be playing the detective and the lawyer, which I think gives it a lot more propulsion than other stone cold kind of courtroom dramas do. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that how the books kind of
that's very much. It's very much from the books that they have they have their investigators played by William H. Macy in this case.
Yeah,
but that comes up a lot in the other Michael Connelly books. Is that's how they work? And Connelly uses he's got two top lawyers who legally advise because his story alone, Michael Connelly, the fact that he was an investigative journalist in LA and worked for 15 years and then started writing books, and that's why. He knows the system inside out, the institutions, how it all works, but he's still taking legal advice for this. But yeah, in terms of what you were saying about liking courtroom and this being a bit TV, George, I agree with both those points. And I think, like Ellen, I watched this about the time that it came out, and I was like, that feels like a for TV thing. But in terms of where this sits on the McConaissance chart we were talking about, I feel like it's overlooked because it was simply eclipsed by everything else he was doing and everything else that was coming out. They're like, oh, another legal drama. Because for me, a cinematic legal film is something like, I don't know, Presumed Innocent, or on a comedic affair, My Cousin Vinny, with Joe Pesci.
Marisa Tomei as well.
Yeah, Marisa Tomei as well, as my brother. That feels more Hollywoody. That feels much more like a cinematic type affair than this does feel like I don't know. I think saying made for TVs is not enough praise, but I think we all agree there's a certain element of that.
Well, I think, just in terms of like the opening credits are quite, I don't know, maybe it's just because the level of TV has got so much better. In terms of storytelling, I mean, I've only seen one series of Bosch, but, I think they're up to 5 now, aren't they? I did read, because I'm surprised that there wasn't any, because there's more books, why they didn't do more sequels to this. But I suppose if there's just not, you're never going to get huge box office. I mean, if it's not a huge bestseller at the top of the chart.
Well, it's going to be, it's going to be a TV series now, Lincoln Lawyer. So Bosch is finishing, and this is going to be a TV series. So there might be a crossover with Bosch, and Titus Welliver might turn up in.
Well, do you know the link between the two characters?
They're cousins, aren't they? Something like that.
Yeah, so there's the link that I put this on Twitter, and Twitter, all of the Bosch fans and the Connelly fans all went nuts, because in the books, Bosch is Mickey Haller's half brother, and they work together on a case. And there's one of the best book is when Bosch becomes the investigator for Mickey Haller, and Mickey Haller's working the other side. I was like, could you imagine just even a TV show, just Titus Welliver and McConaughey playing those roles? It would be brilliant. I was thinking the other way around though, get McConaughey on Bosch, but as Bosch is taking the right thing and finishing when it should. So it's great. I didn't know that they were doing that with the Lincoln Lawyer. So that's great news.
I'm not going to let McConaughey turn up he's got to be Rusty Cole. He's got to come back and reprise his role in True Detective.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, Charlie and I are huge fans of True Detective. Well, the first series. I mean, that is some of the best television I've ever seen, and another amazing performance. You know, it's what's got me excited for the new Bond film.
Yeah.
Is, you know, the fact it's Cary Fukunaga, isn't it?
Well, he's done amazing stuff. Cary Fukunaga, Sin Nombre. He did the
Maniac.
Maniac's
was the one with Idris Elba that we recorded early on, Helen.
Oh, Beasts
of No Nation, where he shot it and directed it himself, which is always irritating when they do that, and they do it with such panache. So the list that Helen read out there, because you go from Lincoln Lawyer and all these films, a lot of these films aren't that big. And when you say like Mud, I'm like, oh fuck, Mud was an awesome film. It was a killer joke. Fucking hell, that's an awesome film. So he's not necessarily doing these big films, but when he's in them, he's in like amazing roles in amazing films and just owning it. But I don't feel I don't feel the same kind of passion when you said Mud. I was like, oh, I really want to watch Mud again. I haven't seen it since it came out, and I can't think I'm going to feel the same way about this a few years down the line. I mean, Helen, you've rewatched it. Were you excited about watching Charlie's Choice this time?
Enough time had elapsed that I could vaguely remember what it was about, but not enough to watch it and not be entertained. We've talked about it. Michael Peña, who I always love to see in any film, and it did make me wonder what happened to Ryan Phillippe. Where did he go? He got divorced by Reese Witherspoon, and that was it. Not allowed to make films.
That's the best thing she's ever done. She's amazing and stuff now. Well, not.
I had a look at it. I checked his IMDb, and I was just like, oh yeah, you know, I joked once that, you know, in the early noughties they kept trying to make Ryan Phillippe happen. You know, after sort of was it I Know What You Did Last Summer, and a few others.
Cruel Intentions,
yeah. But looking at his IMDb, he's still working. He's done a lot of TV. He's cropped up in the odd film, but I think it's safe to say he's he does the sort of privileged, you know, arsehole very well, and he's doing it again in this. You know, like it's sort of like 60 strengths.
Tell you who else is sticking to their strengths in this? Josh Lucas. Wow. You want me to be a prick? Okay, I can do that.
Who's Josh Lucas?
He's the prosecuting lawyer.
Right.
He's the bad guy.
But he never had any point, though, really, did he? He never had you could tell from the start he wasn't going to get anywhere. In fact, the best scenes were, you know, for a courtroom drama in the courtroom, the way that even though Mike Haller's, McConaughey's Mike Haller didn't really want to represent Ryan Phillippe.
Yes.
He knew how to take the room apart and then be able to swing it in his way. So that last scene where he comes in and says, I'm taking you apart, you know, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. And Josh Lucas, was that his name?
Yeah.
He didn't really understand until like too late. And that was a nice kind of tight scene and series of scenes. So that actually, that was a nice bit. That was a nice bit.
It builds to that point.
It is a unique spin, but as I say, because you've got usually like, you know, it's the fact that he has to represent his clients to his best defense, even though he's guilty as sin, and even, you know, more than the crime that he's on trial for. And as you say, Kobe, there's final scenes where even though he knows he's in the wrong, he's still winning the case because that's what he has to do. And it does make it, you know, it is gripping.
I have one thing though. I have doubts about his ability to be this slick when he drinks the amount of whiskey he drinks and drives, which we hear he doesn't have his license, which is why he's being driven around, because Does everyone drink and drive in America?
I'd say,
and then solve a crime?
As well as the sweaty acting, there's some very good sweaty drunk acting from McConaughey.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's a lot of drinking. I'd have to back that up. There's like, drink. It's the pressure of the case. Thank God I've got a bottle of whiskey, an entire bottle of whiskey. Yeah.
Anything else before we head to the scores, guys?
Well, we talked about what happened to Ryan Phillippe, but what happened to William H. Macy? Like, he feels like he hasn't done anything for about at least 5 years. I know his wife's got into trouble.
Well, he's doing the American version of Shameless. He's playing the Frank Gallagher character, and
Is that still going?
Yeah, well, it's going, gangbusters. There's lots of seasons of it and episodes of it. So that's like a bit of a cash cow.
I don't know about you, but I'm always a little bit snobbish about American remakes of British shows. Like, no, I won't have that.
No, I know. I haven't watched one episode.
Yeah, I think the American Office works well, but I think everything else is always a little bit cringeworthy.
Sorry, Helen.
I was just going to say, and we've not mentioned everyone's favourite, John Leguizamo.
Leguizamo
as well.
Yeah, he's in John Wick. So much he's normally a SWAT guy in something. Very good character actor.
Well, I've been watching a lot of ER recently, and there has a remarkable amount of people in this film have also been in ER. So William H. Macy's been in ER. John, what did you call him?
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo. Michael Peña. Ryan Phillippe's mum's been in it as well. So. Right. Not in real life in the film.
But there's other character actors in this, like Ryan Phillippe, I can't remember his character's name, but his parents in this. His mum has been in loads of TV, and his dad is the guy who's been...
You mean the family lawyer?
Yeah,
he cropped up in Daredevil. I can't remember his name, but he's
been everything. He's been the president, I think, in a few films, or he's always playing that sort of officious sort of character. But yeah, I don't think we get enough of that today. There's lots of new young blood coming through, but this film is packed. But I think that's how I'd summarize it if we're going to go on and do the scores. Is it's nothing new, but there is great tension and a solid watchable cast.
You could have used that alongside one of your scores. You just wasted that now.
I'm just going to shout numbers at you then.
With no rhyme or reason. Looking forward to it. Well, on that note, let's head to the scores.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have come from the worlds of film, television, music, food, comedy, and podcasting. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. All of the scores are out of 5. You may have decimal places if you wish. And we will start with you, Charlie, because you picked the film, with your recommendability, please.
So in terms of recommendability, I would have given it... the only reason I didn't give it 5 is not everybody likes courtroom battles. So I gave it 4 out of 5 because legal films aren't for everyone, but they are for a lot of people.
George?
I was going to go with something similar. Maybe if we're going decimals, I'll go for 3.8. I mean, I think it's it's a good courtroom thriller, and yeah, I agree with Charlie. They're not for everybody, but I think this is one of the it's a decent courtroom drama, and it keeps you gripped.
Helen.
I'm in around about the same area. I'm going to give it a 4. It's very slick. It's very solid. It's got loads of actors in it that you probably enjoyed in other films, and it's a reasonable kind of pacing. And yeah, I mean, will it change your life? Probably not, but it's an enjoyable watch if you're into those kind of things.
So you're going for 4 as well. Yeah, I'm going to join George in the 3.8. It's a lot better film than I thought it was going to be, but it's still also the film I thought it was going to be. McConaughey's good, is solid, not as good as other McConaissance films. I'd take XXL over Magic Mike over this. I'd take Mud, Killer Joe, before I'd go back to this. I guess that's repeat viewing score worthy comments. But yeah, 3.8 for me. Charlie, repeat viewing score.
Yeah, so not as high. I would say I was trying to work out whether I give this. I didn't know we could do decimals, so I'm going to go nuts and say 2.5 out of 5 because I only, in terms of repeat viewing, I watched it and kind of forgot about it, but then ran back to it when I discovered the books. So I don't think that says much. I don't know in terms of repeat viewing, but since then I have watched it again and I enjoyed it on an entirely new level. So 2.5.
George.
I'm going to go lower. I'm going to say 1.5. Only because you've talked about some of the other McConaissance films, and I've actually got a DVD box set, a 3-disc thing that I picked up cheaply, and I think it's got Dallas Buyers Club, Mud, and Killer Joe. I've seen Dallas Buyers Club, which I really enjoy, but I still haven't seen Mud or Killer Joe, so I will definitely be watching those. And I think I haven't seen all of. I keep meaning to go back and watch Contact as well. I think there's a few other McConaissance or McConaughey films I would like to revisit before I revisit this one.
Helen.
I go 2.5. Enough time had elapsed between me first watching it and rewatching it to vaguely remember it, but not really remember it. So. Would I watch it again? Probably not immediately, but if someone said, "Oh, I've never seen it, do you want to watch it?" I'd probably say yes.
I'm getting it for 1 here. I can't really see myself watching it. I'm not that big a fan of Bosch either, which I've been lambasted by my friends. I've seen season 1 and thought, yeah, that's okay. But not that interested. So if it's all the same kind of ecosystem, then I'm perhaps not that interested.
I think because of all the twists and turns in it as well, you can't really watch it that often as well, because there's a lot to take in and there's a lot of characters in the film, but I think because of that, there is a lot of surprise elements and twists and turns. It's going to lose that effect if you watch it too often.
Small screen score. Charlie.
I'd say this gets, in terms of what it's like, 3 out of 5 for me, because it hasn't got a lot of visuals that I think warrant a big screen. Obviously, nothing beats seeing it at the cinema the first time, but I don't think you lose much watching this on a laptop or an iPad or a phone if you're stuck somewhere.
So, George.
Well, I did sort of use it as a weakness, but it is going to come in as its strength. I'm going to say 4.5 for small screen score. I mean, I think. It has got some slick visuals in it. It's got a really good soundtrack. I think that's one thing we haven't touched on. I think it's perfectly suited for the small screen.
Helen?
Yeah, so when I first saw this first time round, I didn't see it at the cinema, and I don't know what you would get from watching it at the cinema. His face a bit bigger. It's good to watch in a home-sized screen, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So I'm going to leave it a 5. Yeah,
5 as well. Like Helen, I don't see what benefit I would have had if I'd gone to the cinema. I would be like, I should have just waited till it came out on Netflix. I don't think there's any benefit. The best in-court scenes I watch are having on TV, and I think it's a good medium for it. It's kind of intimate and if you're engaged, then you're engaged. Engagement score. See what I did there? Charlie?
So once again, thanks for the decimal places, because I couldn't decide if this was 4 or 5. So I'm going to go 4.5 because I think even, the 2, 3, it's a thrilling, I think it's great tension. So I think in terms of engaging you with, and as George mentioned, with the soundtrack and the cast, I'd give it that score.
George?
I'm going to go another high one, just keep it 4 on the nose. It's an engrossing thriller, and when I thought it was all done and dusted, the court case was over, I thought, oh, well, cue credits. But wait, there was more. There was more twists and turns. So, I thought it had me gripped till the end.
Helen, engagement score.
So I'm going to go for a 4 as well. I think having seen it before, I was vaguely piecing together like, I know what's happening there. And it kind of moves on. I mean, it's 2 hours and it does feel like 2 hours. So you kind of want it to keep up with its twists and turns to keep it engaging. So yeah, 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4.5 here. I was into the plot line. I could see where it's going, but I didn't understand how. I was kind of engaged to see how he was going to pull himself out of the predicament whereby he's got to represent him to the best of his ability, but also like absolve himself and like distance himself from this guy who he knows was implicated in this crime that's trying to defend him on, but also implicated in a more serious crime from a few years earlier, and maybe trying to help out Michael Peña at the same time. So I was like, oh, how are they going to do that? So I was really interested in that and engaged in that kind of thrust of the story. But would I see it again based on that? I don't think so. But, the first time watching it, I think it was really, really tight and really, really well played out. So 4.5. That gives us an overall score of 3.6. Exactly 3.6.
Wow.
3.600000000.
Pretty decent.
Yeah, it's decent. Yeah, it's a repeat viewing score. No one really wants to watch it again.
You know who did it? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been sweatier.
Is that the strapline? Should have been sweatier, please. Next time, more sweats. Well, like I say, go to any of the McConaissance films. He's sweatier in all of them. Dallas Buyers Club, Mud. He's sweaty. Magic Mike is super sweaty. If you want a sweaty McConaughey film, go to that era.
I've got lots of them.
Yeah. Guys, can you sign off by letting us know where they can find you online, where they can find Retro Ramble blog, and say ciao to whoever's listening, including Jasper?
Yes, so you can find us on our main channel of the interwebs is retroramble.blog. As for all the other social medias, George, we are at...
We're everywhere. So yes, we're on Facebook. So look out for Retro Ramble blog on Facebook. We're on Twitter, just at Retro Ramble blog. We're on Instagram. I always keep saying I need to post more. And I think that's about it.
I think if you want to interact with us, probably Facebook. You'll get both of us on the same day responding. That's probably the best way.
Facebook and Twitter are our best way to catch us. But yeah, we our podcasts on monthly. But yeah, if you fancy some 80s and 90s blockbuster sort of revisits and some cult classics, give us a listen.
Fantastic.
And just finally, next episode is a break from our usual. What we normally do is we're doing a girly film, Dirty Dancing. So I love your reaction. I don't know.
Compared to our other affairs,
compared to Commando, yes. Yeah. Compared to Die Hard,
like Commando as well.
Yeah, they do. They do.
There's a really cool series on Netflix. Staying on brand here. The movies that made us. And
we do talk about that in the episode.
Yeah.
It's a great behind the scenes.
I really love that. And have you been watching The Toys That Made Us as well? The precursor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That came in very much in handy for the our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode.
I thought it might do. But that was really cool. So yeah, look at. We don't know when this is going to go out. We don't know if your episode would have gone out by that time. But guys, listen. Go to Retro Ramble blog and look at films that you like. And if you are interested in Dirty Dancing, whether or not you think it's a girly film,
I did when I was younger. I thought I now know that films aren't to be put into such boxes,
in such brackets. It's got a woman in it, a female. Well, thank you very much, guys, and we've enjoyed your choice there, Charlie. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us on and for entertaining my obsession with Michael Connelly.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.